listening to Bleeding Page Podcast. Join authors Chad Lutsky and Jason Brandt as they delve into writing and publishing the dark side of fiction.
Chad, welcome back to Bleeding Page.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, you're my favorite returning guest, so I'm glad to have you.
All right, you're mine.
So this week we had Edward Lorn on, and this was a really interesting conversation because he publishes in a very different manner from anyone else we've had on here.
Yeah.
So it made the conversation quite interesting.
Yeah, less about self-publishing, though we touch on some of that, and less on marketing, and more on just ghostwriting and writing under a pseudonym, and maybe more of a personal interview than what we usually do, because we asked him reasons for, different, why he does what he does.
Why are you the way you are?
Yes. Why are you like this?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't have any news. You don't have any news? I guess.
Nothing. Nothing.
There are links below in the show notes or in the description thing on YouTube for Jason's page, my page, Jason's other page, Edward Lorn's stuff. And yeah, so we don't usually say this, but we'd love to have you subscribe or just continue to listen, whatever, and validate us with thumbs up and things, the appropriate bells and stuff.
We need love.
Yes. On. Yeah. Make us feel loved. So tonight we have Edward Lorn. I've known him for, 3 or 4 years, and good guy, good writer, very, very prolific. Most of probably what he's written, none of us who know him have read, because he has these secrets that he does, and some of the reasons are pretty cool. And he talks about that. Some of them are legal reasons, and some of them are just he likes to play pretend. So, yeah, we talk about a little bit about marketing and ghostwriting, and I think I found most interesting was just the pseudonym stuff, I guess. And
for sure,
yeah,
I don't think I've ever talked to anybody who has that many pen names.
Right. And for the record, I talked about some pen names I had. I took my stuff down. Don't ask me what my name was. My stuff's not available anymore anyway. So it's not. I was actually proud of it, but as far as the writing, and it's hilarious stuff. No one has read it. No one of my family, none of my friends. It is hilarious. And if you ever read it, you would know that I wrote it for sure, just because it has it has my voice, but it's not, let's just say it's not a dark fiction genre, but it is loaded with humor. And yeah,
nice.
You'll never read it.
So now you're just teasing everyone.
Yeah, and it's not up anymore, so you can't anyway. So without further ado, I guess let's get to our interview with Edward Lorn.
Get a lot written today?
Yes.
So E, thanks for coming, hanging out with us tonight.
Thank you for having me. Talking
shop, talking, self-publishing, hybrid publishing, ghostwriting, pseudonyms, stuff like that. Now, I guess I should ask right away, nobody knows, at least I don't know, and probably in most people, you might have a couple of people out there who know your real name. And you've always just gone by E or Edward or whatever. But I did want to ask, after having a, popularity with the Edward Lorn name, like, what was it, a year or two ago, you decided you weren't going to put anything else? What was the reason behind that?
Okay, so the Edward Lorn name was always about testing the waters with certain types of fiction. Mm-hmm. It was always an experiment. And there's two major reasons. There's a bunch of smaller stuff, but I'll talk about the major ones. The first reason is the YouTube channel. It got to the point where I was getting reviews on the Edward Lorn books that said, Edward Lorn is a YouTuber who also writes books. And then it started going like, does he even write his own books? Because he's a YouTuber. I had far more success with the YouTube side under the Edward Lorn name than I did with the writing, even though I was relatively successful with the books. But once I started seeing that, I was like, oh no, I don't want to be lumped in with the people who use ghostwriter, the YouTube celebrities who use ghostwriters to do their own stuff. So I decided, I've started over so many times, I might as well go ahead and do it again. That's where the Ward Nerdlow name came from. It's just an anagram. It uses the same letters as Edward Lorn.
Yeah.
Same with another one that I'll be releasing later, either this year or early next year, Drew Rowland. Excuse me. And those will be public. But I think another reason why I got rid of the Edward Lorn name is I'm done experimenting. Like, I wanted to see if certain fiction would fly, if certain stories were tellable, or sellable. That's probably more of a reason. Like the Betting of Boys is a perfect example of, can I get away with this? Mm-hmm. And it's not something that I want, haunting me throughout the rest of my career, because I never planned on being Edward Lorn for not even half as long as I was. Because I believe my debut was in 2011 or at the end of 2010 with Bay's End. And I figured, okay, I'll do 5 or 6 books, get these ideas that I want out, kind of make a Bay's End series out of it. What is it? An extended universe kind of deal, where it's almost like the MCU. You have every single movie leading up to like Avengers Endgame and that kind of thing. Each had its own story, its own ending with those characters, and they bring them all back, in the final 2 movies, or actually 4 movies. But anyways, I digress. The whole point was to take these characters that were side characters and make a series out of them, showing, different time frames, different parts of the world and all that stuff. And then I was just going to be done. But then there were other things that popped up along the way that felt right for the Edward Lorn name that just didn't fit into any other category, or I just couldn't sell them. Things like South of Here, things like Cruelty, let's see here, Fog Warning, all that stuff. It was never really meant to be Edward Lorn content. It was supposed to be, whatever other name I was going to use. But I think the main reason is the YouTube stuff, because I want the books to stand on their own. I don't want people just reading the books because I'm a YouTuber. I also want people to know that I'm actually writing these things. So I think that's the number one reason, was the YouTube channel's success. Just kind of had me like, well, I didn't expect this. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's where the Lorn name lived and died, was with experimentation. And of course, the YouTube channel was an experiment also, and that just ended up eclipsing the writing. So there you have it.
What pushed the popularity of the YouTube channel? Were you doing reviews? Or?
Yeah, I do what really took off was my Thursday Theorist series, which is the Stephen King book reviews. But to go a step farther, I was connecting, still am, anything new that comes out. I connect all of his work to both the Stephen King universe, but main goal of that series was to connect everything he's ever written to the Dark Tower series. So I go all the way from Carrie all the way up to Billy Summers, his newest release, and I've connected every single last one of them somehow. And of course, they're all theory videos. Some of the connections are noticed and acknowledged by King. He put them in there for a reason. Some of them are just, fan speculation. Like, did Carrie have The Shining? That kind of thing. Did Charlie McGee, was that, another, side of The Shining? Is The Shining just, telepathic kind of deal? Or do you have people like, pyrokinetic, Charlie McGee? That kind of thing. And then once that started taking off, people started hitting me up to review their own books. And so I started doing that. And then I brought in my reviews. I was very prolific Goodreads reviewer there for a little while. So I just started taking I left Goodreads. My account's still up, but I stopped writing down the reviews and started doing the videos instead because it was just so much easier. I could sit in front of a camera, spout off at the mouth for, 5 to 10 minutes about, whether I liked, disliked, whatever, instead of having to sit there and write everything out and then going over and editing it and trying to be meticulous in that way. I am far more comfortable stumbling over my words in front of a camera and talking to a camera than I am, publishing like unedited material. Just even with a book review, and I didn't want to have to pay to have every single one of my reviews edited. So I did the best that I could for, as long as I wanted to. And then the YouTube channel just opened all that up to me, and it just, and people seem to like it. Honestly, I have no idea what made the channel as successful as it is. I didn't really start seeing a huge uptick in subscribers until I started doing live streams. That brought in revenue because I had hit my hours so quickly doing the live streams that I was monetized. And then after that, it's just something that, I don't know. I never expected any of this. It was all supposed to be a hobby, and now it's an income, a revenue stream. And it seems like all my hobbies keep getting turned into business. So, I mean, there's good and bad that comes with all of that. But yeah, I guess Stephen King brought people in because he's so popular, and hopefully they just stayed because they like me. I don't know.
I think a few people have heard of Stephen King.
Yeah, it's just a couple. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's underground, but yeah, it's like Toad in the Wet Sprocket. He has fans.
Right.
Since we're on the topic of your YouTube channel, I was going to also ask, I've noticed over the past handful of years that those who have a growing platform, be it mainly YouTube channels, or maybe they do some merch that they're selling outside of that, and then they have a heavy social media presence, and then they've never written and then a book before, and then all of a sudden when they do write something, it sells really well and gets a lot of attention because they've been networking and establishing the relationships well before they did that.
Right.
That being said, with you being a content creator on YouTube with your channel, do you think a large, how much of your sales do you think came from that?
I would hazard a guess that it's very little. The reason why I say that is still to this day, even though I talk about it all the time that I'm a writer, I get not very few. I get a tremendous amount of comments about when I do mention it, I didn't know you were a writer. Can I check out one of your books? And I'm the weirdo that goes, probably not. Another thing, there's a line in the sand there with how vulgar and offensive my books are. And then there's the YouTube personality. So people will watch, because my show's pretty much family friendly. I might drop a cuss word here and there, but for the most part, it's family friendly. And then they go and they read a book like South of Here or The Bedding of Boys or what have you. And it's like, oh, well, this either, this isn't the guy I thought he was. So I don't think I see much. And I also have the affiliate program through Amazon. If I do link my books, I can see how many people, go over and click on it and buy it and so on and so forth. And I really don't see much. And now I probably find more new readers, but as far as using it to promote my own stuff, I really don't see an impact as far as, hey, I wrote this book, go check it out. I don't see much of a crossover there where most people do. So in that aspect, I'm a bit unique on the bad side of things, I guess I would say. But the channel was never about promoting the books, the writing, or any of that stuff. It was about, talking about shared passions and Stephen King and things that I want to talk about. Even though I'm here talking to you guys, I am very uncomfortable talking about like my own work, like which ones I prefer. What should someone go buy? Yeah. And that's why I usually tend to tell people, when they come in, is like, which book of yours should I start with? And I'm like, none of them. Just read somebody else's stuff and then come back and we'll talk about somebody else's book. But
Jason, I wanted to ask you the same thing because, just so you know, Jason has a successful YouTube channel where him and his buddies drink beer and they review bad movies. Yeah. And it's very funny, lots of commentary and clips, painstakingly edited. And he, he just kind of started taking the channel serious and going gung ho. What, like the last 6 months, Jason? About the last 5 or 6 months?
Yeah, I really started pushing on it last July or August, and then it started to take off about 6 months ago.
Okay, well,
congratulations.
And you have what, 40,000 subscribers right now?
40,000 ish.
Okay,
yeah,
and he hasn't been writing because he's a writer too, and that's his career. But this YouTube thing with
it's completely taken over.
That's why I don't edit my videos. Honestly, people ask me all the time, and I even hired an editor for a while until the money didn't make sense anymore. But I don't know how you do it, Jason, honestly, because I used to do maybe one edited video a month and then a bunch of the only parts I cut out of my video are the beginning and the end. I have the countdown 3, 2, hello everybody, so on and so forth, and then the end I'll chop that off. But it really super irks me. It really pisses me off when I screw up in front of the camera and I have to go in and chop out something in the middle. I like that continuity where it's just all one thing, and I don't have the time. There's my work. There's the writing, the graphic design, there's editing, there's all different kinds of stuff that has to be done. The last thing I'm thinking about is whether or not I can edit a YouTube video. And especially since it's probably accounts for maybe 10% of my income. So it's not even it's fun money. And what I mean by that is, it doesn't go to pay bills or anything like that. That way, if the channel ever fails, I'm not depending on that money. So I have the stuff that I do depend on, but the YouTube will never be that because your fan base can be gone overnight. That's the scariest part about YouTube.
So Jason, I've asked you this before, but it's been a while. Have you noticed an increase in book sales as a result of the success of your channel?
A little bit, but not much. But I also don't push my books at all on the channel. It's a completely separate business. But I was telling you before we started, my next standalone, I'm going to try an experiment where for 4 weeks, maybe during a pre-order, I'll really push it at the beginning of my videos to see if there is a crossover. Right now, there's not much, but I mean, most people who watch it have no idea I write books.
Yeah.
I try not to spend time selling my own shit at the beginning. I try to get into the meat of the video. Because YouTube's really big. I don't know, this is turning into the YouTube episode.
Well, I know the live streams that you have, I've seen you mention it. So I was wondering, as a result from that, and then,
after those, I do, I get some, I might get a dozen, 2 dozen, but, not any big needle mover.
I will say the most of the success you see with people who are writers and YouTubers, usually they're new writers, or they weren't even writing when they started their YouTube channel, and they see more of that because people have a feeling to support them. Like take for instance, like Good Mythical Morning, Rhett and Link, they came out with I forget what their book's called, but it was their first book and it sold like crazy. They also have 14 million followers. But what I'm getting at is they hadn't done something like that before. And when you're already an established author and you then have the YouTube channel, I believe it actually hurts because people were like, I'm here for you, for your personality. And what they're reading about when they read my books is not my personality. It's not me or, what they came for. It's definitely not Stephen King. So that's probably another reason why I don't see much crossover, because I do have so much King content and I don't write anything like Stephen King. At least I don't think so.
Well, my YouTube audience is 97. Readership is somewhere around 80% female. So I'm really curious to see if that affects the cross stone, though. So we'll find out. Give me a couple of months. I'll have a good answer if I can get any movement. I just don't know.
Gotcha.
I wanted to ask you, why keep your real name secret and write only under pen names?
Because I haven't written anything that I'm proud enough to put my real name on yet. That's probably the best answer I have to that question. Another thing is I do write stuff that's going to piss people off. So, and also with my social media I tend to say things that anger people also. I have a lot of people who agree with me, of course, but there's just as many people on the other side who disagree with me or who get, ugly about it. And I like the idea of anonymity. Is it hiding? Hell yeah, it's hiding. I get to do and say whatever I want, and nobody really holds, the real me, quote unquote, the real me, accountable. So it is fun. It's a little, clandestine. So there's a little bit of that in there also. I just like being different people. I feel like I'm a born storyteller. So to come up with characters, I like even, creating characters for me to become. Like I have a character named Earl that I do shorts on TikTok with. It's just I like being, and not because I don't like myself. It's just like I said, I haven't done anything that I'm proud of enough to want to be known for that thing, especially not the Edward Lorn stuff. And it's not that I don't like those books. There are some that I don't like. I don't regret publishing any of them, but there's some of the books were, like I said, experiments. It's like, do people actually want to read this kind of stuff? And there's no way in hell that I would have ever put my real name on The Bedding of Boys, on South of Here, maybe even not Bay's End, because Bay's End was very autobiographical. And if anybody caught on to that who knew me as a kid, and they're like, they're going to know exactly who I am. So there's several reasons, but I think I just like anonymity. I think I really do.
That's pretty cool. I'm way too vain for that.
You told me that before, those exact words. I'm way too vain for a pen name.
I mean, no, put it this way. No, I'm not. I do think that one day I will have. I mean, I have had some pen names that I absolutely will not talk about, and I have published stuff under that pen name.
Bigfoot Erotica, right?
Sure.
Been there, done
that. But as far as like I have no qualms about like writing a romance series and having my name or another name on it. I would probably use another name just because the algorithms and stuff.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
It's best to do that. But if I did do that, I wouldn't keep it secret. So I'm wondering too, I don't know how many pen names that you have had, but are there ones that because maybe you've written in, actually romance is the only one you haven't written in.
Right. I've done erotica, but I haven't done romance.
Yeah. Okay. So do you hide all of these pseudonyms?
The reason, the number one reason why I hide, the vast majority, I've had a total of 12 since I started publishing. Mm-hmm. I killed off 3, sorry. I killed off 3, literally killed the authors in some way, shape, or form. My erotica pen name died of cancer. Several things. And then her husband.
How did you do that? Did you put it in the bio on Amazon,
I just announced it on.
He probably had follow. He probably has a Twitter account.
Social media. I just posted up there. Sorry to say that we've lost so and so. Her husband posted. I'm talking about these people like they're real.
That's so wrong.
That's kind of messed up.
It is. Yeah. It is. It's very messed up. But I mean, I'm not proud of it. I've never once said I enjoy that aspect of it. I do enjoy being different people, but people wanted more of this particular author. So her husband dug up one more book, and I literally wrote one last book under that name that was supposed to be her trunk novel. Mm-hmm. But there's 2 reasons why I won't ever say that name. But the first reason is because I killed her. Yeah. And I don't want people to realize that. Second reason is I was a dude writing under a female pen name. And although I didn't like it, I did not say no when it was suggested to me. So I will be completely honest and say that, yes, I have written under a female pen name. Am I proud of it? No. Another reason why most of the stuff, the reason why Edward Lorn, this persona, and this is the closest to the real me you'll ever get is the Edward Lorn name. So you're not talking to a character here, just to get that out. But the main reason is I'm contractually obligated not to connect the Edward Lorn name to the other names, because of some of the stuff that I've said on social media, because of the stuff that Lorn publishes. This is so weird. Anytime I do this, so weird talking about these people like they're other people who actually exist. But for like my traditionally published contracts, I'm not allowed to connect Edward Lorn, and that was right up front. They told me if we do this, you sign this contract, you cannot say that you are also Edward Lorn, because we don't want to be attached to the Betting of Boys. We don't want to be attached to these books. And I keep going back to the Betting of Boys because that's like the linchpin for this whole thing. It's probably the most disturbing thing that anyone, if you're going through my catalog, it's probably the most disturbing thing, which is why I keep coming back. Jason, if you don't know, it's a book about a female pedophile who rapes and murders boys between the ages of 11 and 14. If you want to get technical about it, she's a hebephile. I don't really draw the line in the sand there. It's all pedophiles, but she prefers pubescent boys, and it is very graphic, very disturbing. It was my attempt to write a horror novel that I hate. Lolita. Couldn't stand the book, hated the book. I think it's one of the worst books of all time. But I wanted to see if I could get away with it. And I said, if I'm going to get away with it and make it as graphic as I want to, I have to have a female with a boy, because it is almost acceptable to some point for young men to have sex with older women, even no matter how young they are. I just wanted to come out and make it very clear in the book that it's wrong for both sides. That it's, kids are kids, don't sexualize children, period. And I also wanted to see if anyone would take the book down, because there is graphic descriptions of sex in the very first chapter. Well, it's rape. It's not sex. It's rape, where she's messing with an 11-year-old boy. And I was like, would this actually fly? And I think the only reason why I got away with it was because I made it a female pedophile and a young boy. For sure. Had I flipped it, I think that book would have been snatched down for underage porn or whatever you want to call it. Right. Even though the whole point of it is the violence, is the rape. And it's always very clear that it's a rape situation. The boys are not happy doing what they're doing. And then halfway through the book, the main character, the main boy, realizes that his childhood has been stripped away from him. He's gone from a kid who can enjoy the circus to constantly thinking about sex all of a sudden. So I wanted to delve into that and whatnot. But anyways, yeah. So contractually, I can't talk about them. Then there's the last reason why I don't talk about some of them is because some of them are like Chuck Tingle, where he doesn't use an editor. He chases trends. As soon as he sees something, he will write something and then shit it out, the very next day. And we've seen this time and time again with him, where he will publish something a day or two after, and you can't edit a piece, and get it, nice and clean and out, in that amount of time. But he does it. I don't want to be attached to something like that, even though I am perfectly happy. Hypocrisy, maybe. Perfectly happy earning money off of those types of things, as long as my name's not attached to them. So I don't want people to go out who like Edward Lorn or whatever name it might be. I don't want them to go out and pick up so-and-so and read this and go, God, why didn't he use an editor? Because it wasn't worth using an editor on. It was either a joke, it was an experiment, any number of things. But with the Edward Lorn name, I wanted to make sure 100% that even though it was experimentation, it was quality experimentation. So I purchased, covers, until I started doing my own, purchased editing and all that stuff. But if I had to pay for editing for every single one of my pen names that were active, I probably never would have made a penny off of, most of the stuff that I published. So there's all your reasons.
I'm curious as to why you can break hearts by saying that they're an author that they have come to know and read died of cancer, and their poor, heartbroken husband has to post about it. You feel you could do that, but you felt bad for writing under a female pen name, which most erotica and romance is. I mean,
it's true. That's why the publisher asked me to do it. They said you are not going to sell if you don't use a female pen name. And I was like,
are females.
Huh?
All three of my pen names are female.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I did not know that.
Yeah.
But with
I just because I know that it's a common practice. I've never heard of anyone feeling necessarily bad about it.
I feel bad about it because I do believe that it's. I feel personally like I am taking, like I took away, some other woman's income. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if there's anything to back that up, but that's how I feel bad. Sticking my foot in a place, first off, in a genre that I didn't respect. My erotica is not, I don't think it's good. But I can't lie and say I don't like those reviews that pop up going, this is so much better than, this erotica written by men, or you can tell this is written by a woman, or so on and so forth. I take a little bit of pride in that. I do, but I don't like them. I don't like reading them. I don't like writing them. Yeah. And it's not that I'm a prude or I don't like, sex or any of that stuff. It's just, there's something about when I get into, so I want to, my goal when I write is to affect people emotionally. And sex of course is emotional at some point, but there's far too much physicality for my writing style. I don't know how to describe a penis for the 92nd time in the book, so I end up falling back on, I don't know if we can cuss here, but I'm gonna be nice about it. I'm falling back on, the same crutch word for penis, over and over and over again. And I can't find, and that's where I'm lacking as an author. This is my fault. I couldn't make it to where I enjoyed writing it because I was so limited with the words that I could use. And it felt like I was doing the same thing over and over again.
Let's just say that, and I won't say why, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it does feel monotonous, and it's not fun, and it just feels kind of cheap. But the only thing I think that I would feel bad about as far as writing under a female name would be if I created a persona and I had discussions with people. It was more of like, here's a Twitter account, I'm sharing this, go get it if you want it, if you don't. And
the Edward Lorn name is the only name that I interact with people on. Yeah. I don't interact with anybody under, even Ward Nerdlow. I won't do it with Drew Rowland. The reason for that is I agree. I am not going to pretend to be someone else and, talk to people and then get to know me or know a persona and that person not be me. That's why I don't have any problem with social media under the Edward Lorn name, because this is the closest I have ever come to just letting it all hang out. It's the name is also the closest to my real name than any of the other names that I had. And the most active I had at one time was 8. And that's why I decided to kill 3 of them back to back to back. In fact, if anybody had been paying attention, if any of those fans crossed at all, someone would have figured it out eventually. I have logged into social media with the wrong name. It's only been up for seconds before I realized it, but there's been a lot of close calls. Luckily, there is not a single account, not even so much as an email online that has my name on it, my real name. So it's been that's the one thing that I realized early on. If I'm going to keep this secret, I have to have absolutely zero proof online. And when I started doing all this and started writing in pen names, the internet was relatively new. So I'm talking Yahoo Chat, Cheetah Chat, that kind of thing is when I started out. I published my first book before the internet was even really a thing. That was 97. I guess the internet was a thing, but it was like dial-up modems and whatnot. It wasn't as prevalent as it is now. So it was very easy to keep my name offline, I guess. Anyway.
Were you going to say something, Jason? Yeah.
I was just going to ask, how many of your many different genres do you write in under all those
Every single one of those names, the 8, were a different genre. I wrote Christian fiction. I'm an atheist. I wrote erotica. Can't stand erotica. I wrote some very, very bad, I don't know if you want to call it cryptid erotica, but it was monster porn. So I'm going to call it monster porn and not erotica, because I think
I guarantee Hunter has read it.
Probably. To me, erotica is about, a sensuality.
Something actually erotic.
Trying to turn your reader on. Monster porn, even though some people do, God bless their soul, even though some people do, it's not. I don't consider that something that should be erotica. So I have monster porn. I have the Christian fiction. I had the let's see here, monster porn, erotica, Christian fiction. I wrote. Let's see here. I can't get the specifics with. And then there was the horror, literary fiction. The horror was under Edward Lorn. There's a literary fiction, and then there's generic thrillers. Which I always end up leaving someone out, but every single one of them was a different genre. The only genre I think that I have not written in at some point in time is romance, because I have absolutely no want or need to write love stories, especially because of the happily ever after trope. If you're going to write romance, there's got to be all you have to do is go to Romancelandia or Romance Twitter and talk to anybody, and if it does not have a happy ending, it is not romance. They are vehement about that. Yeah. And I don't like happy endings. Even when I do write an ending where not everyone dies, everybody is changed for the worse by the end of it. But yeah.
What ratio of those are self-published versus with a traditional publisher?
It's a very large self-published to traditionally published. I only have 2 traditionally published pen names out of all 12. So and one of them only is a one not one hit wonder, but just one shot wonder. I had one chance and I almost used my real name on it. Almost used it. But then I pulled back at the last minute and was like, no, I'm going to see how well this does. And then, I will talk to the publisher about maybe, and then the book just flopped. I think I sold a total of 1,200 copies, period. And that's internationally. Damn. So yeah, 1,200 copies ain't shit. I didn't earn my advance back. They did let the advance go. I didn't have to pay them back, but yeah. So yeah, there's a huge difference between the two. My most popular was the erotica and the Christian fiction. I made ridiculous amounts of money. I don't want to go into numbers, but insane amounts of money on those two things. First with the erotica, the erotica was all ebooks. I didn't do any print whatsoever because it was back when mommy porn first started getting really popular, with 50 Shades of Grey and all that stuff, or what people called mommy porn. And I was just a certain type of cover that looks kind of like E.L. James or Sylvia. There's another one that looks very similar, or the Twilight books, where there's just one very simple image, and then you have the stark title and byline. And because I did that, because they looked like 50 Shades of Grey books, or I can't remember what the other lady's name was. Anyways, because it looked like that, they just flew. I mean, I was selling anywhere from 300 to 400 copies a day for probably a good 6 months. And yeah,
people are perverts, man.
Yeah, exactly. But then on the opposite side, you had the Christian fiction. I was selling it. It wasn't anywhere near as good as the erotica, but I was moving probably 100 units a day. And it was, but both erotica, well, all three of these, erotica, romance, and Christian fiction, pretty much have the same exact formula. You do something to get characters together, You do something to break those characters apart, and then the ending is getting those characters back together. Now, with Christian fiction, those characters are usually your main character and God. Something happens to turn them into a Christian, something happens to make them not believe in God anymore, and then you swing in with the, oh, God exists after all. With romance, you have a couple that meet, they fall in love, or they start dating. You have a conflicting interest somewhere in the middle that makes them break up. And then by the end, they come back together. Erotica, same thing.
That sounds like more like steamy romance.
Yeah.
But I mean, I haven't read a ton of erotica or anything, but I know that there's like, romance, steamy romance, erotica, which is more like
steamy romance is fade to black, from what I understand. Steamy romance is like, you have everything leading up until the sex, and then something like the sex was amazing, and then you move on. But with this is how it was explained to me, the difference between erotica, romance, and heavy romance, or what you call steamy romance. It all depends on how graphic you are going to get. And erotica is the top tier, unless you go to porn, which is just stories of people fucking. But with erotica, you have to have character. It's yes, it is a form. I guess you'd say it's a form of pornography, because you're talking about sex in graphic detail.
Yeah.
But I'm also giggling because I remember my erotica editor telling me the difference between erotica and romance is how you spell cum. No, the difference between erotica and porn is how you spell cum. Erotica is C-O-M-E, and pornography is C-U-M. So I find it funny that was even brought up in our conversations, but it is true. There's the literary merit of the word cum, C-U-M. Even if you read literary fiction, they spell it, if they're talking about semen, it's C-O-M-E. Like, that makes it more respectable than the C-U-M. I find that funny. But yeah.
That's hilarious.
That is funny. I had real quick, I wanted to talk about, now you've done ghostwriting before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I still do.
Now, okay, I've never done ghostwriting before, but
neither have I.
From my experience speaking with other ghostwriters, and even to a point where I was, there was someone, a writer friend of mine who has read a lot of my stuff, really likes it, wanted me, it became in a position, found himself in a position where he was kind of like this hiring manager type of thing for this company.
Yeah.
And a scout, I guess, if you will, sort of.
Yeah. Acquisition.
Wanted me. And had been talking to me about it for a while. I was like, yeah, and I found out how much this stuff pays, And I knew that it would probably be a challenge because of the way that I write. But then again, I kept thinking, well, when I'm writing, it's another thing that attracts me to a pseudonym, is like you were saying earlier, without the editor thing. Like, if I decided I was going to write another genre, I don't under a different pen name, or under a pen name. I don't, the pressure is kind of off me to have like, meet everybody's expectations, and really be proud of what I'm, and take my time with the prose and stuff. It's just like, I would still want to, write a good story, but I wouldn't try so hard. It wouldn't hurt my brain so much to just, like you just gave a formula for two different, genres. And I don't really write like that.
Right.
I would write like that, and so I did wonder about the challenge of, instead of writing a 40,000 or 30,000 word book, having to write a 70,000 word book, and could I do it? But I ended up signing a contract with this company, and just, was told for several times, over the course of the next 6 months to a year, yeah, we're just waiting on this, we're waiting on that. And then I was like, yeah, whatever, never mind.
Yeah.
All that to say this, I've noticed by experiences with mingling with these people, there seems to be almost like a not secretive, but like people don't want to help other people get ghostwriting gigs, or give them advice on, yeah, you should go here, or this is what I did, or something like that. I don't know if that's been your experience, but that has been my experience.
I got supremely lucky. I knew a guy who worked for a publishing house for an author who hadn't had much of an output recently. Had a contract for a book that was due in 9 months, and this author hadn't written a single word of it. Finally, it was a relatively big name. Finally, my friend contacted me and said, "Hey, I brought it across so-and-so's desk, and he was saying that he doesn't care who writes it as long as you follow his outline. So do you want to do it?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, I'll do it." And the pay was, it was 5 figures. So I was like, "Hell yeah, let's go." I never see a penny of royalties after writing for whoever I write for. I'm paid one lump sum, which is absolutely glorious. You get that check and then you go on about your business. So as far as finding these gigs, I don't have any experience finding them. Everything so far in my entire career, I will be the first to tell you I'm privileged and lucky because they all just fell in my lap. Every time I've wanted to do something, either there was someone around me who knew how to do it, or there was someone around me who knew how to get my foot in the door. And then all I had to rely on after that was, whatever talent that I had. With the ghostwriting, I find the ghostwriting even easier than writing something like Christian fiction or erotica. And the reason for that is I get a very detailed outline of the beats of the story. Literally, all I have to do is fill in the blanks with filler words. That's it. If you want to get very basic with it, you have the Dick and Jane books, Dick Chase Jane. So instead of Dick Chase Jane, that line in the outline that they hand me, I was like, Dick ran after Jane, and then I give him scenery description and all that stuff. Literally, all you're doing is filling in the blanks with scenery, with dialogue tags, with descriptions of the room they're in, the clothes they're wearing, so on and so forth. If you ever pick up a book and the very first paragraph is these 3 things followed perfectly after each other, I can almost promise you it's a ghostwriter. If you open a book and you read about it's not really weather, but it's the description of where they're at, followed by a description of what someone is wearing, followed exactly by a description of what that person is doing in that moment, because that's the build. What you do is you go into these outlines and you're like, okay, so I have to do this, and the formula is this. So you put those 2 things together. You're literally, all you're doing is filling in the blanks. And that's why I love doing it. And on top of that, it pays really, really well. I mean, even for some of the lesser known authors who do it, like let's say, okay, throw this out there. James Patterson. James Patterson doesn't really have ghostwriters in as much as he has collaborating authors, but he never writes a single word of it. He gives them a detailed outline. Very few people knew people were doing this before James Patterson. And he was the first, I would give him credit here. He was one of the first authors to put the actual author's name on the cover of the book. But he still does books without putting their name on the cover. I'll get to that in just a second. But you get paid $3,675 to write a James Patterson book. You don't get anything else. You don't get any other royalties, anything. You might get a contract. If the book does well, you might get a contract for future books with more of an income. But just that alone, that $3,765 is going to be more than most authors make in a year off of their book sales. Most, not the majority of writers on the planet. So if you can bang those out, man, it's lucrative. I could easily write 4 James Patterson books in a year and still have time to write my own stuff. But as far as I do want to say this, because I called him out, so I'm going to say why. James Patterson and Bill Clinton did not write The President is Missing. Neither one of those authors wrote a single word of the book. David Ellis did. The only way you can find this out is by actually opening up the book, going to the copyright page. You go all the way down to authors, and it says David Ellis. It doesn't say James Patterson, and it doesn't say Bill Clinton. Now, is Hillary writing with Louise Penny? I don't know. But I know for a fact that Dave Ellis wrote that book, but his name's not on the cover. Stuff like that pisses me off. When, you know, you have this already established author, David Ellis, writing a book for you, and you don't bother putting his name on the cover. Now, would have been busy saying David Ellis, James Patterson, and Bill Clinton? Hell yeah, I would have been busy. But to have done all that and give him a single line on the copyright page that no one's ever going to read, I think that's dirty. But at the same time, the books that I've written for people, my name isn't on the book whatsoever, but I was paid a decent amount to be an anonymous ghostwriter, which, you know, is implied when you say ghostwriter. But as long as people are paid what they're worth to not be on the cover, I think that's fine. But when you have a book that was as big as that one was, and David Ellis is, you know, just one little line on the copyright page, I think that's a dick move. So while I will give Patterson credit for putting his collaborators on the cover of the book, most of the time they just go completely unknown. I can't think of a single author who has made a breakout success with ghostwriting. You know, where they've worked with like even David Ellis. There's a lot of people who don't know he writes his own books. They just think these are James Patterson books. Anyways, that's my rant. I can't speak for, you know, the James Patterson stuff, with the exception of I do know that the collaborative effort with the ones that he actually wrote with J.D. Barker is different, and I don't know that J.D. got his, you know, I don't know if he's got all of his, you know, much more attention because of these things with, I can't remember if they've only just wrote one and they're writing another one right now, but now I got to get him on the show, because he's a cool dude. And he wrote that Dracul or whatever with the Stoker. Yeah, I know who you're talking about
too.
Yeah.
But yeah, JD's real cool. But I had some more questions, but I want to get run out of time, so I want to get. We asked the same kind of two questions. We didn't touch on as much self-publishing as I would have liked, but these other last two questions that we have basically pertain to that, like what works and what doesn't for like marketing stuff. So, Jason, if you want to.
Well, of all the things you've done throughout your illustrious career, what's the one thing that you felt did not have any kind of decent return on investment that you would tell people, don't bother doing this, doesn't work?
Oh, wow, that's a good one. I have to go with marketing here, and that's NetGalley. Just recently, me and my TC Parker, the lady I wrote the book with, we went on NetGalley and we spent $400 some odd for a NetGalley spot, and we saw maybe anywhere from 30 to 50 reviews, and most of them were not posted anywhere else online. I'm still getting emails to this day from NetGalley that the review submitted is the email you get, and you look at that, and then you go over and you check to see if it showed up. Now, mind you, they got the book for free. They wrote the review, but it is not on anywhere else but NetGalley, and people don't go to NetGalley to buy books.
Right.
So that is, I think that is 100%. Unless you already have a name established for yourself, NetGalley is pretty much just throwing money into a fire. Because I didn't use my name for it. It's a Ward Nerdlow book, but TC had other stuff out there, and she had enough name recognition that we should have either moved more units or gotten more reviews up on actual book selling sites or like Goodreads, and we just didn't. So that's probably my biggest regret. My entire career was just last year, was just getting NetGalley. Now, I've had success with NetGalley in the past, but I didn't pay for it. My publisher did. I believe it was with Life After Dane. I was with Red Adept Publishing. They put it up there. But I don't think I saw a bunch of sales, but oddly enough, I didn't see a whole lot of reviews, even though all the reviews that I saw were positive. I didn't see any correlation between the reviews we got from NetGalley and book sales. When I get money in, like we had it 1 month, and that month of sales was a little bit better. But then again, it was like 3 months after the book released. And I think it did just as well 3 months out as it did on release day. So I'm not entirely sure if it's just Life After Dane came out in 2013. Maiden came out just last year, 2021. I don't know if NetGalley has lost some of its oomph or what. But yeah, I don't suggest anyone use NetGalley, especially not a read now, because they have an option where you can approve everybody who requests it, or they can just click it and read it when, and that they're automatically approved when they click it. We did a read now. Life After Dane was have to be approved. So I'm not sure if it's just because everybody and their mama could have got the book for free. I don't know, but it definitely didn't transfer to sales.
All right. That was specific. I like it. NetGalley.
You're welcome.
And what has worked the best for you?
BookBub. BookBub ads are, if you can get in, you're easily going to make back what you put into it. Let's say, horror category, $350, $400. You are easily going to make that. On top of, you are going to get the reviews to go along with it. It is far better than just giving the book away for free. In a BookBub ad, I don't know if they do free anymore or not, but they used to. But I don't suggest anyone do a free BookBub ad. Do it for 99 cents, because once you come off of free, it's not going to show up in the ranking. All those books you gave away for free, those are on the free rankings. You have to charge something. So if you do something for BookBub, make sure it's like a 99-cent sale. And then, do it that way. You will easily make back your their consumer base, their newsletter readers. Just that alone is going to make back the money that you paid for that. Then you have the reviews that come with it. Unlike NetGalley, where everybody gets the book for free, and then you hope for a review. At least with BookBub, you're paying for something and you're seeing a return almost automatically. You can see the success of it. Where over on NetGalley, it's harder to see how much of a success you're doing, because you have to wait for the reviews. People have any amount of time. It doesn't matter. Even if the book is archived, they can review it 3 years down the line, then come back and put it on NetGalley. So I firmly believe BookBub is the better way to go, because like I said, you're making money off the books also, and you're going to get the reviews. So why not go with the paid version? That's my POV on the subject anyway.
Nice. I've had I don't even want to say luck. I've made a lot of money from BookBub.
Yeah. BookBub's fantastic.
I've had one deal.
It's actually getting in that I'm having a problem with now. Yeah. It's so overwhelmed. There was another one, Book Gorilla, was doing really well, and then they just kind of fell off the map. E-Reader News Daily, something like that. They're the ones that started it.
E-Reader News Today.
Yeah. They did it before BookBub was even a thing. And then BookBub just stole all of their entire newsletter list, basically just stole all of them. Because BookBub was almost guaranteed that, you were going to get what you're looking for on BookBub, whereas with E-Reader News Today, or whatever it was ENT, right?
Yeah, it went by ENT.
Yeah, they called it ENT. With ENT, they didn't really have too many guidelines as far as, like, it had to be 50,000 words and it had to have a certain star average or whatever. But then BookBub came along and they're like, okay, we're going to make sure it has 50 reviews. And that's where the whole myth with 50 reviews helps you sell books on Amazon was BookBub. So BookBub literally changed the culture. Now everybody thinks that it's Amazon who's going to help promote you. It's like, no, BookBub will allow you to put your book on there if they have a spot, if you have 50 reviews. But yeah. And BookBub, I was amazed at how its popularity changed almost overnight, and it's still doing great. I just can't seem to get a spot every time I try to. It's like, I want to give you money. Let me give you money. to do this. And they're like, nope, don't have a spot open. Try again next time. I'm like, come on, man. Let me take my money. Literally take my money.
Yeah, it's tough. But outstanding, man. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been
appreciate you having me on here.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. And you guys are always invited over on my channel. Chad knows this, but Jason, if you ever want to come over and chat, we do From the Desk Lives. We do Agree to Disagree. I've done it with Chad, where, if we have two things or multiple things we disagree on, that we talk about it respectfully, no religion, politics, or anything like that. But yeah, you're more than welcome to come on the channel if you ever want to.
Much appreciated. Thank you, buddy.
You're welcome.